Hi, it's Jeff and Andra from Primal
Hi.
Pet Foods, and welcome to our first In the Kitchen with show with Formity Paws. And tonight we have our first guest, which is Primal Pet Foods, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But just briefly, what we're trying to do in this series, In the Kitchen with, is bring you a lot of our vendors and have a little bit more detailed discussion with our some of our key partners with great nutrition options that can, and other options as well, that'll help you see these things in action and have a little bit longer format to be able to talk to it. You can be at home, out and about, listening, mobile. That's great, and then we can be here to answer your questions and help you understand what options you have to make your pets healthier, your dogs and your cats. Because honestly, that's what Formity Paws is all about. We're really passionate about the health and well-being of our dogs and cats, and we're big proponents of raw food, and we're big proponents of Primal. They've been a great partner for us. We love what they've done. They've got an exciting new product out that just matches up so well to what we already do. A little bit of our magic in the bowl that we talked about last fall. This is another great item to have. So listen today. You can answer questions. We'll be trying to answer your questions live today on the tonight during the presentation. There will be an opportunity to enter a drawing for a Primal gift basket. So it's worth over $60, and you get some great Primal product to get started. So anyway, so before now to get started, I want to introduce Andra from Primal Pet Foods, and she's going to, we're going to talk a little bit right now, before we get into Primal and things like that, we're going to talk a little bit about why raw. So, Andra, what do you think? Why raw when someone says that to you?
First of all, I always think, so I'm from Kansas City, so I am a fellow Missourian, and I understand that we live in the heartlands of where everything is grown from your corn, soy, and wheat. So we've been trained a little differently, I feel like, out here, because we want to take care of our farmers and we want to help them, be able to make a living. But now we're sitting here saying, we don't want that corn, wheat, and soy. Why do we need raw instead of kibble? What's the difference between the two? And I have to answer that all day long. But what I found out, many years ago with my dogs is that there's allergies out there, and understanding allergies and what happens to their digestive system when they start eating dry food versus raw food. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times, and I know you know this very well because you helped train me when I was before I started with Primal. But it's all about understanding how important it is on how they digest food. And a lot of people always feel like raw food is something that's harder for them to digest versus it's very easy for them to digest. Mm-hmm. Their organs have to work so much harder to be able to break down dry food. And what is, I'm just going to ask, because I know you know the answer, but what is it that is in so many dry foods that causes all these issues?
Well, and a lot of that is the processing that's involved. A lot of kibbles are made from materials that are left over from the human processing, and they're made with fractionated grains. So the corn gluten, the rice gluten, the wheat gluten, those kinds of things are very hard for our dogs to digest. They can digest them, but they're very hard to break down. And that can just cause a host of issues.
Right. I always think about starches.
Right, exactly. And so we can talk about, carbohydrates and trying to lower our carbohydrates for the sole purpose. Well, one of the big reasons we want to lower our carbohydrates is to lower our glycemic index. Right. And that is the sugar index. So the more carbs we have, we can use some of those. Some will be used for energy. Primarily the dogs are going to use fat for energy, but some of that can be used for energy. But any leftover carbs basically turn to sugar in our body. That spikes our insulin, and then that spikes our bodies can't react quickly enough to get rid of that insulin, and so inflammation occurs. The other thing I'd like an opportunity just to introduce, because we're probably going to have another in the kitchen just talking about leaky gut, but I wanted to introduce the topic a little bit because it ties in so well to what we're talking about with raw foods tonight. And I kind of have an example. So leaky gut, you're like, well, what is leaky
Why?
gut?
Yeah.
And
no one really knows what leaky gut is.
And because leaky gut can manifest itself in all sorts of issues. And basically what happens is it starts in the stomach lining. So if you think of this piece of cheesecloth, this cheesecloth represents your mucosal lining of your gut.
So let me put that in my hand so you can...
70% of our immune system is in our gut. We have a lot of nerve endings in our gut. A lot happens. So normally when we process food, and the dogs process food, the same thing, the body breaks it down. We call that the bioavailability of the product. It breaks down to small molecules, and they very easily fit right through the very small parts of the stomach lining, and the body knows, oh, this is food. I can digest this. I can break it down, and I know how to process it, and it just gets processed.
I'm very happy.
And I pull out what I need, and then we move along, and everything works fine. What I don't need, out the back end. So that's how it should work, with a very nice solid mucosal lining. What happens with pets on a highly processed diet, so that's going to be, with some of those, the corn, wheat, and soy, glutens, and things like that, some of the grains and not as bioavailable, you're going to have a leaky gut. So this represents a little bit more of what a leaky gut looks like. You've got bigger holes happening. Because you've got inflammation that's begun to start, and your mucosal lining gets stretched because these big proteins come through, protein molecules come through that we can't, that the dogs can't digest very well. And so what happens is these bigger than intended molecules get through the mucosal lining in some of these bigger holes. And what happens is your body recognizes those as foreign bodies. And so they're like, ooh, danger, danger, danger. And so then they have all these little workers in there who are like attacking that foreign body. And they attack that, and inflammation starts, and then all that just sort of tumbles down. And then your dog eats again, and then those happens again and again and again. And so
70% of the problems come through their gut.
Right, exactly. So leaky gut syndrome. What can happen then, in addition to this, is that you can have molecular mimicry happen, which is these proteins that are coming through, these bigger than typical proteins getting through the leaky gut, create a big issue. And so then our body starts to say, well, no, we've had these so often, these must be normal proteins, but we're attacking these, and you get an autoimmune issue happening. So, and we can go into more details with that, but real quickly. But those can cause skin issues, thyroid issues, joint issues, heart, spinal cord, collapsed trachea, eye and brain issues, IBD, irritable bowel syndrome. We get that a lot. A lot of pups have those issues. Liver issues, gallbladder issues, pancreas issues, sometimes behavior problems, and of course leaky gut can be exacerbated by environmental toxins that are all around. Nervous system,
yeah.
Right, exactly. So that's leaky gut. So what we like about raw is it's so bioavailable. It's very easy for our dogs to digest. They get the appropriate amount of moisture. Think of a mouse, like for an example with a cat. Cats definitely need more raw in their diet. They need that moisture. The mouse is the perfect food for the mouse, for that cat, because it's 70% moisture. They're desert animals. They need a lot of moisture, and so the mouse eats all the good grasses and things out in the field, and they have all these great trace minerals and everything else, an all natural diet. The cat eats the mouse. The cat thrives on that, eats everything it needs. What it doesn't need, the fur, and boom, out the door. And then that's how they can survive. They need that intracellular moisture, and that's an important point to remember, is intracellular moisture. I like to say, equate that to if you're eating an orange, and you're thirsty. It's a hot summer day, and you're like, I am so thirsty. Glass of water, you drink a glass of water, it's like, I'm still thirsty. But if you eat a nice, cold, juicy orange on a hot summer day, and you eat that, you feel so much more hydrated. That's the benefit of intracellular moisture. Goes right into your system, helps you flush out toxins and things. I think raw is going to help with your teeth, dental health.
Right.
It's
because
great.
they can't create the enzymes that they need because their saliva doesn't have it.
Right.
So if you can get into your raw or your bones, now what you're going to be able to do is break down that tartar and plaque. You don't need to take them to get their teeth cleaned anymore.
Or not as often.
Just once or twice a week.
Yeah, and dental kibbles, like cleaning your teeth with pretzels. So we want to be able to do that naturally. Just an ounce a day can help with keeping your teeth clean. Great for weight control.
Yes.
Managing the weight.
Hip and joint issues causes all the glucosamine. There's a lot of connective tissue. We'll get into that a little bit later as well in the raw. So just a lot of benefits to going into raw. So that's sort of why raw. And then we'll talk tonight throughout our conversation about how we feed raw and things. But now I'd like Andra to talk a little bit about what makes Primal special. So if you look at foods, if I could train, every time I train, the one thing I always try to point out is understanding ingredient panels. If you don't read the ingredient panels of what you're feeding, then you don't know what you're feeding. You're going off of somebody saying, oh, this is a good food. Oh, this one's popular. But why is it popular? Why is it a good food? You don't really know. But being able to pull out the ingredient panel, understand the background behind the history of the company. And so let me tell you a little bit about our history of the company. Our owner of the company had a dog who went into renal failure and went to several different vets, and this was back in 1999, and back then you didn't think about raw. That was very new. And a vet happened to say, have you ever thought about barf, which is being able to doing raw food. So he decided to try it. He happens to be a culinary chef, so it fit right into what he does. He saw such great results with his animal, with his dog, that he decided to make his own food. So 4 years later, that dog was still doing well just by changing the diet of the food. So it's very important to us and very passionate that it's all about the sourcing. So when you get into sourcing, it's not just about where is it coming from, but it's how is that animal fed? How are they treated? How is the cleanliness in that area, that farm or ranch that they're in? Those are things that are very, very important. We like to have a relationship with that company. We want to be careful and methodical about everything that we do. So even with our foods, we do human edible grade food, raw meat, and then we do organic fruits and vegetables with raw vitamins and minerals. So, and I know there's a lot of companies that will either put synthetics in there, or they do a very short ingredient panel with their fruits and veggies and raw vitamins and minerals. And if you look at ours is very complex. And that's because we're trying to make it as complete and balanced as what an animal needs per what their body needs to survive off of.
And that goes back to that bioavailability, which I think is so key for our dogs, because the less our dogs and cats have to work to process their food, the better they're going to be. Because when you get your vitamins and minerals from a whole food, you're getting everything in that vitamin and mineral, in that package that you need to digest that particular vitamin, to be able to use it. So that's what we say bioavailability. Sometimes when we have synthetic vitamin C, that's like getting the outside of a tennis ball, but not getting all the good stuff on the inside that you need to really make it work, to all the building blocks and parts to make that work.
So I always talk about absorbing is your raw food, and your synthetic or something that's been processed, and it has to be broken down.
Right.
So your body has to work 10 times harder to break it down. So so those are things that we really are very careful about. It's about how fine we grind our bones. It's about all the tests that we do. So we do extra tests. Everything that comes out of our warehouse has a third-party testing to make sure it is safe before it ever goes to distributorship. Anything that is poultry, we do an HPP, which is a high-pressure pasteurization. And the best way I know how to explain high-pressure pasteurization is we basically put them in these tubes that looks like chubs of meat, and they go into this one cylinder that they are, kind of sitting in there. I always call it a torpedo tube. And then it goes into the cylinder that's filled with water. That water is pressurized to a point that it beats the cells that they cannot survive to be able to make the bacteria that is bad for you. It's not about the dog. They can get sick, but it's about us.
Right. And HPP happens in a lot of human processing as well. And that way we can guarantee we can get much closer to having a very clean meal. I mean, not like Andra said, not an issue for the dogs and cats unless they're very immune compromised. But potentially we want to always have safe handling practices when you're handling
right.
meat, so.
And a lot of people don't realize our food is safer than the food you buy at the grocery store. Yeah. And if you compare to what you do at the grocery store, and you're not going to see the hormones, steroids, and antibiotics in it, when you go to the grocery store, you are. If you look on whether it's got HPP when it's a poultry, which you have to be very careful with, you're actually safer handling this than you are when you're preparing your own food.
And they're like the beefs, they're grass-fed beefs.
They're grass-fed beefs.
Pasture-raised chicken, pasture-raised turkeys, etc.
Actually, our beef now comes from New Zealand. And the whole reason behind that is because you don't have the GMOs. They're fed better. Their grass is healthier. So it's a better cattle than what you can get here in the United States sometimes. Most of the time, maybe all the time.
No, there's some good local ranchers too. But yeah, for sure. So so that's a little bit about, and what I do want to talk about before we, about Primal that I think from a consumer's point of view you're really going to like, and a lot of folks do, is because I'll just use this Primal Pronto bag as an example because their packaging is really great because it says exactly what's in there. Each of the percentages of this is 78% chicken, organ and bone, and 23% produce and supplements, like apple cider vinegar, etc., in that. So you know exactly what that percentage is on this particular variety. Everything's complete and balanced raw, chicken without antibiotics or added hormones, grain and gluten-free, corn, wheat, and soy-free, naturally derived vitamins and minerals. But on the back is kind of where all that magic sort of is with their packaging. Very nice. So you know exactly what the protein percentage is, what the fat percentage is, like your regular guaranteed analysis. But it'll say, okay, it's for dogs. This is really nice because not a lot of packaging will tell you. We're all about it, For Many Paws, talking about food energetics. If you have a, is your dog run hot, cold, neutral, warm? What might be going on with your dog? We can help you understand what protein to feed. If your dog has active allergies and active skin issues going on, you don't want to feed venison. You don't want to feed lamb because those are in food energetics, traditional Chinese medicine. Those are hot foods. You want to go with more cooling foods like rabbits and chickens. Even beef is more neutral. Chicken is actually warmer. Some people feed seasonally. They feed more warmer foods in the wintertime and cooler foods in the summertime, just to help their pets.
And it's because their body is so neutral and they don't have any issues.
It'll tell you whether your food's complete, and it'll also tell you whether this particular variety is HPP'd. In the case of Primal, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's only feathers that are HPP.
Right. Okay. So your meats, your red meats or your white meat, meaning pork, is not going to have that process done.
So just as an example, that chicken was 78%, 23% produce. This is Primal nuggets, frozen nuggets, 87% turkey and sardine, organ and bone, 13% veggie. So each formula is different.
Right.
So when you feed a variety of proteins, you'll find out this is for dogs. It's warming. It's also been HPP'd because of the turkey.
The other thing I'd like to point out is over here, when you get into the poultries, you're going to see it's got turkey, necks, wings, livers, and I believe gizzards are in there. Hearts. That's what I'm missing.
Yeah.
And when you go into your red meats, it's going to be heart, liver, and bone. So the reason behind all of that is where is the most nutritional part of an organ? It's going to be your heart and your liver. So you're going to get more nutritional value out of those, and of course then they need the bone. And when you grind that bone to a very fine grind, now you're getting everything that's going to be the most beneficial for their food.
When you put those organ meats back in, and heart can really probably be considered a muscle,
right?
But like the liver and the gizzard and things like that, you're getting more of those trace minerals and vitamins and minerals coming from the organs themselves, which is important.
Right.
Talk a little bit about what varieties you have, and then we'll get into the brand new product that you have. So kind of the different shape and textures and things that we offer for with Primal.
So what we have here is we have our Pronto, which is your smaller little bites. And I have a dog, I have a little pug who has a very tiny trachea. This has been great for her because her trachea is so small and she actually has air breaks while she eats this. You can also go into your nuggets, but sometimes nuggets still can stay in a longer slice where this is easier for her. But what I'm trying to explain is this can feed feeds up like a 5-pound dog. This is for a 40-pound. So now you can do your math a little bit, right. And you know that 2 nuggets would feed a 10-pound dog in the morning and 2 nuggets at night. This is going to be 1 meal if it's a 40-pound dog. Sometimes they'll cut it in half and do 2, 20-pound dogs. Mm-hmm. And then you have your freeze-dried. So the freeze-dried is really great for...
Freeze-dried is the same as
this. We just
nuggets,
pull the
right.
moisture content out of there so that you can use it and it's, more available. Because if you're traveling, hunting here and, around here, there's a lot of hunting dogs. This makes more into a protein type bar.
Camping,
Camping.
You can rehydrate it, which is nice.
Traveling.
We'll talk about the options we have with rehydrating it, which is great, but it works great as a kibble topper.
Yeah.
And remember...
Because you're introducing something completely new.
Right. And 1 ounce a day can really help keep your dog's teeth clean. I mean, there's one of
It
the
is
ways.
a great dental chew.
Yes. So it's a nice little treat for them as well. So that's a great option. And we have the same options with our cat friends as well. So we've got cat nuggets, freeze-dried nuggets, frozen, and then we have Pronto, the little bites for the cats as well.
But you want, with the cat, you want to really rehydrate it because they need that moisture content.
Remember that mouse, 70% moisture.
So 80%, cats should have 80% wet or moist food and 20% should be dry. A lot of times everybody does the opposite because it's just the way we've been trained. But helping to get more moisture content is going to take care of a lot of your kidney issues. And there's nothing worse than to have a cat that gets, it's going to have surgery. It's $3,500. If we could have just changed their food.
Right. And we carry a wide variety of proteins available. So we have every option that Primal has as far as the
so you have
nuggets.
Beef
So we've got
rabbit,
and
duck,
venison,
venison, and pheasant.
Yep. Turkey and sardine.
Pork.
Pork
is kind of one of my favorites because a lot of people think pork as your ham and bacon, but really what it is, it's just your heart, liver, and bone. So it's actually very low in crude fat protein. You're looking at 7%.
And then, so that's sort of the basic main part of Primal, which is all the good raw foods, the raw ditters, either used as a topper or used as a whole meal. Now, remember, with raw, you don't have to do raw 100%. You could do it a couple days a week. You could do it. I prefer to tell folks to do. If you're going to do a kibble in the morning and then do a raw at night. A little easier to digest and quicker to digest for the dogs and cats at night. But you can do that. Any raw you can get in to their diet, you're going to lower their carbohydrate rate. You're going to increase all the benefits that we've just talked about with raw. It is not an all or nothing. So don't think like, I've got to go all in, or I've got a 100-pound dog or an 80-pound dog and I just can't afford that.
I've got 5 dogs.
So once a week they get a patty. Excellent. You just mix it up.
Just a few times a week. And it's reducing pancreatitis, diabetes, cancer, cysts, all those types of
It's giving your dogs and cats the vitamins and minerals they need, again, from that bioavailable source. So important.
Yeah.
The other product that they have, which is really cool, is goat milk. So raw goat milk. Pretty cool for the pets. So...
All you have to do, So what this has is it's unpasteurized goat milk. It's got ginger and turmeric. So it becomes an anti-inflammatory, antifungal, antibacterial, antioxidant, anti-cancer. So all of those things are in this, and a lot of people realize, again, you're talking about something for dogs who throw up a lot. They have diarrhea. They have hard stools.
It's very stomach soothing.
Stomach issues.
Good digestive aids in there.
Anybody they're having surgery, and how many dogs out there are having they're being spayed and neutered and puppies.
And it is a whole and complete food as well, so you can. Yeah.
So this is kind of what I do is I just mix it up in there. When it comes to my raw food, this is all I do in mine is I pour it in there so I don't see the bottom of the bowl. And then usually I just cut it up a little bit.
We've got forks, but yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's okay.
I take whatever's close to me.
So you just kind of break it up a little bit.
Yeah.
One thing with raw, you want to remember it should be closer to room temperature, not super cold or icy cold.
Yeah.
So it's just easier to digest. It'll be a little closer to your to their tummy. So you'll know your own pet what they require. Our dog Foster. Doesn't care how, it could just be out of the fridge and he'll eat it. Our other dog Salem definitely needed to be a little bit warmer because he didn't like the cold hitting his tummy. So you kind of know all about that. So I think we've got some questions out there, but I'm going to hold those till the end if you can hang in there. And then we'll talk about our really exciting product that we have now, and that is our
Bone broth.
Bone broth.
So to be honest, I am very excited about the bone broth. I've been using it with my dogs. I got it as soon as I could for about 3 weeks now because of all the benefits behind it. I know there's a lot of people who's been using bone broth or making bone broth for themselves, but now you have it for their dog now. And you don't have to make it for them.
I know.
Just warm it up. So why is bone broth so good? So a long time ago, bone broth was made actually as a medicine to be able to help heal from the inside out for people. And physicians would go and prescribe that. Now what's happened is they realized that really back then it was very beneficial for the people because it helps heal and seal that gut.
So remember we talked about leaky gut. So we've got this. I think this is the one. There's the one. We've got the leaky. This is the leaky one.
You have the holy one.
This is the leaky one. Bone broth starts to, because of the amino acids that are in the bone broth, we'll talk about that cooking process, that after a very long time simmering are released to such an extent that you can start to seal these holes in your pet's gut. And your own gut, frankly.
Yeah, so if you think about this as going through your food is going through this.
Right.
That's what we're trying to seal up.
That's what we don't want that to happen. We want to go back to this nice solid piece of mucosal lining that's healthy for your pet. So there's where the bone broth can help.
So 70% of the gut, 7% of what happens to that animal is actually through the gut. So now if we're trying to heal and seal it, now you're going to see differences and benefits behind it. So what we do is we cook it in a 50-gallon container. We fill it with bones that actually comes from us. So again, it's not going to have the hormones, steroids, or antibiotics in it. And then we do your organic vegetables and your organic herbs. And we fill just a little bit of water in there just above where the bones are, and we let it cook between 20 to 24 hours. I guess is the best way to say it.
And you simmer it longer than,
we
right?
simmer it,
right.
Yes. So what you're trying to do is you're cooking it down, and then you let it simmer so that it becomes into a gelatin type form.
And so what you're doing is all this magic, we talk about this magic in the bowl, but all the magic of the bone broth comes really from that bone marrow and the collagen and the gelatin that's in. So this
is thawed out.
This has been thawed out a little bit, but the gelatin, the bone broth is very gelatinous. So that works out great for our dogs. It's going to be good for skin health and eye health. It's good for joint health. It can break apart some of the starches and things as well. And it's also, again, good for those dogs with the sensitive stomach. It's bone broth in general is under kind of works through this. Great for arthritis, poor gut health. That's going to be great, and also for the stomach acidity as well.
So it helps with allergies. It's going to help with hot spots. It helps with dogs who just are losing hair. It helps rebuild their bone or their muscle. It does so many amazing things. Thankfully, but not thankfully, I have one dog who has allergies, and I'm always kind of fighting it a little bit, even though I'm doing everything I can to make it right. But there's some things you can't ever kind of fix, I guess is one way to say it. Yeah. And so his hair, like, recently had thinned out a little bit along his legs, and now that has all filled in. He had a little brown spot on top of his head, and that's all gone away. So I know it has totally made a difference. And sometimes it seemed believing. We're from Missouri, so you got to see what you see. The show me state, right?
Yep, exactly.
So and then I also have a dog who's 13, and I'm seeing a difference in the way she's walking. She's doing better because she has hip dysplasia, and
great for joint health because of all the
glucosamine,
the natural glucosamine that's
turns
here,
into collagen,
and the glutamine that's there, as well as the critical amino acids like proline and glycine that help with tissue repair and anti-inflammatory and the collagen formation. So that's what begins to build all this together. Plus, there's magnesium and calcium and phosphorus. There's a lot of great vegetables in this as well. The anti-inflammation because it has ginger, it has turmeric, tummy, again for the stomach and things like that. So it's bone broth without overselling it is really pretty cool. You've probably heard a lot in the human world because it's very popular. And honestly, I like nothing more than on a cold January day putting making a pot of bone broth in the kitchen and just let it simmer all day, and the whole house smells so wonderful. And then just a cup of that every day makes a big difference for me. So I honestly, Matt and I have changed our lifestyle because of our dogs. We now eat so much healthier than we ever did before because we're like, wait a minute, we're talking about this. I'm learning about all this. Our dogs
I've
changed.
watched you for 7 years.
I know. Our dogs have changed our life, which is amazing. So, because I'm like, we're doing all this for the dogs, let's do it for us. So I was really excited because we're doing bone broth for us and I'm giving some to the dogs as well. But now we have it more available. It's just, and this is super convenient. It takes we don't all have 48 hours to keep our stuff on the stove cooking forever. But it's very easy and convenient to use. How long will that last now? If we defrost this in the refrigerator?
This will last for 7 days. Okay. I have 3 dogs, 2 25, 21 pounds, and a little 13-pounder. She doesn't get as much. But this lasts me for a week. Is
there a recommended dosage?
There is not a recommended dosage. So what I've done is I've kind of did a couple of different things to kind of give you an idea. Don't be afraid of it. Just pour it over, again, just so that you don't see the bottom of the bowl, so you're giving at least enough in there, depending on the animal and the issues that they have. If they have more allergy issues, you may want to give them a little bit more. If you want to have fun with it and you want to make it a little soupier, then maybe you want to add a little bit of goat milk in there. And this one I'm making it really soupy, but you can do that as well.
Yeah. You can add, there's always, even with the goat milk too, we've got great pumpkin options. So add a little pumpkin in your tummy. Your dog's had a little upset tummy. A little goat milk and pumpkin that night can reduce some of that inflammation. Maybe mix it in, you could add in then a little bit of bone broth and kind of get that inflammation down and soothe them, heal and restore their gut so you can start to put that gut back together. And one thing in preparation, unlike the other raws, which we don't heat up or warm up generally, it can be done, but generally it's just raw out of the, and more room temperature. We like to be able to, with the bone broth, you can actually warm up a little bit. So you can put it on the stove, you can warm it up a little bit. Don't put hot, boiling water, not boiling, but simmer it up just a little warm. That can enhance the palatability and the flavors and
the warmth. So
and the warmth helps
so what I used to
more soothing for them.
Yeah. So what I do is I pour it into the pot. I watch where the thickness has gone away, and then I just pour it right over. And so you don't we're talking seconds that it takes to be able to warm it up. But it's very easy. You just don't want it, the temperature, if you're a person who likes to be exact, 107 degrees. So it's very low.
Right, yeah. And this may seem this is not a complicated process. This is nothing to worry about.
Something
this is
fun.
Super easy. If you go to our YouTube page for 4 Many Paws, we've got a great video. It's breakfast with our boys. And what do we feed the boys every day? You get to see me preparing breakfast for them. You'll understand really how simple it is
and takes
to
minutes.
do. So right,
it's not time consuming.
Exactly.
So you may want to look at your goat milk for something that's for the morning, so your cereal, and then you're looking at something for soup or your broth at night.
And one of the things I think that Primal does, and we'll just touch on it really briefly, then we'll go to your questions, is they just have a great selection of raw meaty bones, recreational bones. Once or twice a week, these bones are excellent for your dog. Talk about dental care. They're going to get a lot of the marrow out of here, which has a lot of the nutrients. Some of the things that we, over time, soak out of the bone broth, they won't get all of those. It's better if we actually cooked these bones and made bone broth with these bones, for instance. You would get this.
Yeah, so, that's actually what it is.
Has benefit this exactly. We just cook these bones and we get this with some vegetables. So it's like we're not very far from the process, which is cool.
Yeah.
But this is excellent. A little bit of meat still on the bones. This is going to be great for health for their teeth. They can their side teeth are made to slice. They're called carnassials, and they like little scissors, and they cut the meat. The front teeth are to grab it, and the side teeth are to cut it. And so when they're scraping, that's why they don't eat their kibble, because they don't chew it like a cow does, or we doesn't have molars, but they've got these carnassials, so they cut it. So they can scrape, and while they're scraping and trying to get all this meat off, they're scraping it off, and all those good enzymes are coming off the raw recreational bones that help clean their teeth. So once or twice a week, great dental care. February is Dental Health Month, and this is a great start. Just do it natural, bioavailable, and that's really cool. So anything else you think we want to touch on?
The main thing, again, on these, it's going to show you that it doesn't have onion or garlic in there. If you're buying, again, always please check your ingredient panel. Please understand what you're doing, because it can be life-changing for your animal.
Right. I also want to say these are BPA-free bags, which is also important because we want to make sure that nothing's leaching through. So
I thought of one other thing. Ice cubes. You can make them into ice cube trays.
Don't need them in the microwave.
So we prefer best to cook them or warm them up, simmer them on the stove, the old-fashioned way, rather than putting it in the microwave. Just a little. You can,
but it's not worth it in my eyes because it's so quick to.
And I would never ever heat in the bag.
Yeah. No, it is not guidelines we tell you not
safe
to.
like that. So you shouldn't heat anything in a plastic bag anyways.
No.
Even BPA free or not. So that's I think everything that we had to talk to you tonight. Thank you so much for sticking with us. I do want to say, before we go right into your questions, I want to say that you can enter in to win a contest. If you go to our Facebook page, up at the top where it says homepage photos, I think it's the third one. If you're on a mobile phone, it's like right there on our homepage. At the top, there's a line that says contest. Click on that contest. You can enter in. We just need your email address. We're asking for your suggestions for future shows, so we can kind of get your feedback on that. Send us an email if you liked it, if you didn't like it, what you'd like to see. We're really here for you, and we're doing this for you. We're doing it for your dogs and cats, frankly. We want them to be healthy. We want them to thrive instead of just survive. And that's why Andre's been doing this for so many years. That's why Matt and I have been doing this for so many years. We are passionate about this. It is a passion. It is a passion. It is a passion. And we could talk all night about this stuff. But,
we could start to bore you, actually.
Yeah, we can geek out on food and nutrition. So enter that contest. That's great. I did want to also mention we're running a promotion this weekend at both of our stores, Edwardsville and St. Louis. So this weekend we're going to run, let me make sure I get everything right. We're going to do $2 off the bone broths. So that's a great deal. And then we're going to do $3 off frozen or freeze-dried any size Primal this weekend. So it's a great weekend to stock up and save with 4 Many Paws and with Primal.
And the price is $9.99?
I think with the sale.
With the sale. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Perfect. And so we've got lots of, we've got samples and things too you can try. So sample packs, etc. So let's go to some questions.
I have a question from Christy. While we're on the bone broths, she asked, how long will the bone broth last in the fridge?
7 days. Well, 7 days, and you can refreeze it.
which is very nice. So it's pretty easy to use. And
Yep.
within 7 days, you'll be, even with
You
a
use
smaller
it in
dog,
7
you'll
days.
use that up. Yeah, you'll use that up. So, and you can pour it over kibble. You can pour it over. They could just have a bowl of a little dish of it as a treat, things like that. If you're going to do it, as you get used to it, I would recommend maybe doing it at nighttime when you're going to be home, so you understand how much this may be a little additional moisture than they're used to. So there may be an extra potty break in there, just to make sure. I wouldn't like dose it in the morning and then like be gone all day.
Leave them all day.
Yeah.
They have to wait 10 hours.
This question is from Cheryl. She's asking, is it harmful to feed raw every meal, like morning and night?
No.
No, our boys are fed raw morning and night. They're fed 100% raw.
And so are mine.
Yeah, that's fine. No, it's not harmful as long as you're feeding a balanced meal. But now
Complete and balanced.
But we also want to make sure that if you want to vary the proteins. Frankly, our philosophy at Four Many Paws is 3 different proteins, 3 different vendors, so that you can get a little bit different mix. Primal, though, is wonderful because a number of our customers just rotate all within the world of Primal because of what I explained with the different proteins available, and they're all different vegetable mixes. So that's a nice way for your dog to kind of like graze
Even
through.
the meat mixes are different.
The meat mixes are different. The grinds, everything's different. So that way your dog's getting, over the course of a month or 2, they're getting a nice variety of food. So great question.
But
Thanks.
again, it's very safe. There's no problem.
Yeah. Any other questions? If you want to, after this, if you watch it and you think of something, we're going to be watching this, just chime in, let us know. But to enter that contest, make sure that you put in your email address, fill out that contest form. This will still be on our website, so eventually it'll be on our website soon. It'll be on our YouTube page. It'll also be on our Facebook page. So if your friends didn't get a chance, they can watch this. You can share it with them. We really want this information to get out so we can get all of our pets happy and healthy. But thank you guys so much. Thank you, Andra, for making the trip to see us. We so appreciate Primal's partnership in helping Four Many Paws get that message out. So
we
important.
appreciate you too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I do too.
Thank you. And and thank you guys for watching and sticking with us. And we're really excited about In the Kitchen With, and we'll have more to share with you throughout the year. So thank you so much. Oh yeah.
One other thing I want to tell you is that everything's 100% guaranteed. So if something doesn't work out, you can always bring it back. It's worth giving a chance to try something different than to be a little afraid, well, what if they don't like it? It's okay.
We guarantee everything.
Yeah.
And we've got samples you can try and
Yes.
try it out as well. So, yep.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much. Have a good
Bye-bye.
night.